so because you've learned those things about yourself, obviously you need to understand that these are not yours. Those comments, those words, those notions were put there to keep you in the relationship. Okay. They've created guilt.
Hello and welcome to Self-Talk. I'm Rachel Astarte. Today, my guest is Gloria Battini. She is on a mission to empower survivors of abusive relationships to free themselves from mental and emotional wounds by finding their authentic self. Good thing you're on this show. She is a survivor herself, and now Gloria is a relationship and self-love coach. Gloria, welcome to Self-Talk.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm very excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to speaking with you. So there's a lot in your bio. Tell us a little bit about how you became a relationship and self-love coach.
Yes. So, well, as it does say in my bio, obviously I'm a survivor myself. So the whole thing obviously ignited from there. And, I've been I was in an abusive relationship for about 15 years, and it was not physically abusive, but it was very, emotionally and psychologically very abusive. Mm-hmm. And I didn't actually realize what was happening to me for a very long time. And after I came out of the relationship, I was actually, I started researching, and I realized that what happened to me was actually more in the specific narcissistic abuse.
Okay.
But I didn't know when, while that was happening. And all I knew that I felt like something wasn't right, that I felt really, not in alignment. I felt something was really, my intuition, I believe that always knew. My intuition always knew that there was something off there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I started seeing a life coach because I was struggling with OCD, which is an anxiety disorder. Mm-hmm. And I thought that the OCD was coming from a high pressure job that I had and everything. But then again, after, with the aftermath of everything, I actually realized that it was from the relationship itself.
Wow.
Yeah. And anyway, so by working on my OCD, I got rid of a lot of the compulsions that I had, and it gave me clarity. I was actually I had brain space, headspace to actually see what was happening. And fast forward about 18 months after I started working with my coach, I was actually able to leave the relationship. I had come to a lot of awakenings, to a lot of realizations, and I decided to leave. And after a few months, people were coming to me telling me that they were inspired. I was sharing my story a little bit, and they were saying, oh, this is such a great thing. More people should be doing this. And then I was like, I might just as well help them.
Yeah, right.
And it was so life-changing. The coaching practice for me was so life-changing. And so I spoke to my coach, and I asked her if she thought it would be a good idea. And she said that she thought it would be a great idea. So she helped me actually found a school where to get my diploma and everything. Mm-hmm. So she was very, very supportive. And then here I am. So I qualified. And then yeah. So I absolutely love what I do. I love it. Such a change. I worked in events for 10 years. So it was like a completely different story,
Sure. Yeah. And you're getting to help people individually, with their issues. So there is a glaring question that's coming to me immediately. How does one know when they're in a relationship with a narcissist?
Yes. So first of all, if there is something wrong in the relationship and it could potentially be a toxic relationship, you already know. I can tell you now, you already know, because your instincts, your intuition is telling you something. You might feel shame. You might feel guilt. You might feel that you cannot talk. You might feel that you can't share certain things with other people because, oh my goodness, what would they think of our relationship? If this is where you're at, then that's a huge sign that there's probably something that you might want to look at, you know. And in terms of being in a relationship specific with a narcissist, you know, a narcissist, the very definition of a narcissist, what defines a narcissist is mainly their lack of empathy. So they would not see anyone apart from themselves, right? They would not empathize. They would not understand anybody else apart from themselves. So everything that they do is aimed at getting something in return.
Right.
And so every relationship that they have is not about the person that they have a relationship with, but it's about what they get out of this relationship, you know. And in terms of a pure narcissist in that way is to feed their ego, you know, to feed their sense of grandiosity, their sense of self, you know, all these sort of things. So it's never about, you know, in a healthy relationship, you choose your partner because you're maybe inspired by them, or you find that they add something to your life, in terms of maybe wanting, you know, making you want to be the best version of yourself. You know, there is something that inspires you, but it's about the other person, right? It's about something that you like about them. For the narcissist, is about, oh, I feel this, you know, I get this out of that, you know. So one of the main things for me that I've experienced throughout the 15 years in terms of psychological and emotional abuse was gaslighting.
Yes, that's a big one.
Oh goodness, yeah, and gaslighting.
Give us some examples if you can, so that people can recognize it if they're being gaslit themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So gaslighting is basically it's a very specific technique, let's call it, manipulative technique, manipulate. Oh my goodness, my English is failing me. Manipulation technique, yes.
Mine does all the time. Sometimes I forget it's my native language, but go on.
The manipulation technique that they use to basically alter your reality in a way, right? To make you, to distort the reality. So let's say, to give you a very practical example. So I would, there would be things that concerned me about our relationship and our life together. I mean, we were married, so it wasn't only the love relationship, but it was also, you know, financial things, you know. So I would go to him with certain concerns, saying, oh, you know, I think we've overspent here, or maybe there's something that we need to be looking at over there. And he would just dismiss it with things like, you're imagining it. Or this is another thing that they do. If you open up about your vulnerabilities, which in my case was my anxiety and my OCD, they then use them against you. So for example, he would say, well, you're just saying this because you have anxiety. If, you know, so that's of course you see it this way because it's your anxiety,
right?
When in reality, no, you're actually expressing a concern that you have. Or for example, I remember towards the end of the relationship, I was saying, you know, obviously I was married and I do still believe in marriage. I believe that it can be a great partnership with the right person. So I didn't just leave, you know, I wanted to make sure that I tried, that I did, you know, my best with, you know, to save the relationship. So I'm very open. I'm very honest. So I just said to him, you know, I have this feeling like we're going into completely different directions. And I feel like there's something is off, you know, like I don't, you know. And he would just say to me, oh, you know, those kind of things, it's just us, you know, it happens. It's just ups and downs. It's just our relationship goes in waves, he would say. This is just a wave that we're, you know, on, and these sort of things. And I would, the thing with gaslighting is that obviously you love the person that you're with.
Right.
So you give it credit. So you say, well, maybe actually, because you don't imagine that they are manipulating you, you don't know. So you start saying, well, actually, maybe that's what it is, isn't it? Maybe it is my anxiety. Maybe it is just a phase. Maybe it is something that I am just being a little bit too dramatic about, you know? And that's how it goes on and on and on for years.
It sounds like it's a fine line between between being manipulated and being a helper in the relationship. For example, we all have problems, right? Every one of us. And so if our partner loves us and says, you know what, I think your father issues are coming up right now, or I feel like maybe your childhood wounding of other sort, you know, some other sort is coming up right now. And you might want to look at that in a loving way. And you go, oh yeah, maybe that's the case. Thank you. As opposed to what sounds like very manipulative behavior to keep you small, right?
Correct.
To keep you in your place. Now, what do they get out of that, would you say, generally? I know it's hard to speak for all narcissists, but what do they get out of basically muting you and keeping you in a box in a way?
Yeah, for them, it's about feeding their ego. So it's about, in the jargon, we call it a supply, the narcissistic supply, right? So it's that supply that you're always going to be there, that you're always going to feed their ego, and you're not going away. Because to be honest with you, from a, you know, if you think about a practical point of view, I was cleaning the house. I was literally running the house. I was looking after our finances. I was, these are sort of things that, he might have thought, oh, I don't want to let go of that. Right. If there's something that needs to be done, she just does everything. So why not, But also, emotionally as well, I always, I was always very, open and understanding. But when you do that with the wrong person, when you do that, when you stumble across a narcissist, it really is very dangerous, very, very dangerous. And for them, yes, it is indeed something that feeds the ego. It's a supply, and something that actually shows the way that they are, which is a huge red flag. Sometimes they make you think like, oh, I am actually something for this person. And then the relationship finishes, and within a week or two, they are completely and utterly in love with somebody else.
Wow.
And you're like, how did that happen?
Right. A week ago, so you're like, just doing so well. Yeah.
Like, what's going on? So, it is not a healthy way. It's not a healthy way, but even it isn't a healthy relationship. It's always about having that someone there, but it doesn't matter who the person is.
Yeah.
Just what matters is that there is somebody, right?
Yeah. So if this is, and I would assume that some of the listeners, this is making a lot of sense to them. What can one do once you've realized you're in a relationship with a narcissist? What can you do?
Yeah, the first thing that I recommend is try to gather some research, just go. For example, if you just had your realization now, is something just clicked for you, go and do some more research. Have a look at what other red flags could be, because obviously there's so much to say about this subject, but so go do some extra research, see exactly what the behaviors could be, the red flags, even the consequences for a survivor, or for somebody who is experiencing the narcissistic abuse. So do more research. Definitely, that's the first step. And second thing, I would say, open up to somebody who doesn't know them. Because a narcissist very often would do something that is called a smear campaign. So if they feel threatened, so if they feel like you're realizing what's going on, and you are starting to talk to people and try to, validate what's going on, it is very highly likely that they will try to turn other people against you, and they will try to say, oh, look what she's doing this and she's doing that and she's doing that, and that's obviously because they're manipulative, right? So they're trying to manipulate everybody else, and that can
cover
be
their ground.
Absolutely, yes. And that can be very, very isolating for you, because people that you trusted, and it's not their fault, it doesn't mean that they are narcissists as well, because they are believing the narcissist, not at all.
Well, narcissists are very charming.
Absolutely. Very charming, very persuasive. Absolutely. 100%. So talk to somebody who doesn't know them, and perhaps even reach out to a professional if you can, there's many people who do what I do. There's coaches, but there's also therapists, psychologists and all that. There's many, many resources out there. And, it doesn't cost anything to send a DM to somebody on social media and just say, look, I feel that this is what I'm experiencing it. What do you think it could be? What's, just to get a bit more reassurance, perhaps. And then if you are sure that that's definitely, if you took those steps, if you've done some research, if you spoke to somebody already, then I think in terms of starting to get out of the relationship.
Yeah, that was my next question, is you talked about sort of the ramifications of actually leaving a narcissistic relationship. And so, yeah, help us walk through that. What does that look like?
Yes. So it looks very different for a lot of people, because obviously we know that, not everybody is going to experience this in the same way. And for some people, there can be physical violence. There wasn't in my case, but narcissists can become physically violent as well. So remember that the number one thing, the most important thing in the world is your safety. Okay.
Yes,
no matter
absolutely.
what.
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel like you can leave and you like straight away cold turkey, you can just leave, move out, and you have somewhere place to go where they cannot find you, they do not have access to or anything like that, then if you feel confident in doing that, please definitely do so. Leave and just leave behind and just go no contact. Otherwise, prepare yourself to leave. So give yourself time. So, and this is, it's gonna, I believe this is one of the most powerful things that you can do, but with in mind, having your safety in mind, I am going to tell you now, pretend if you have to. So if you have to show them that everything is fine, that you have not changed, that you are the same person, but behind the scene, you're starting to do some internal work. Yeah. And you're cutting yourself out a little bit. Maybe you can go to have a session with a counselor or a coach or a therapist once a week without telling them, or perhaps it could be cutting out 10 minutes, half an hour or an hour a day to do something that is just for you, that feeds your soul, that just heals, for example, your inner child a little bit, These are all things that are going to give you strength, that are going to bring out your confidence again, that are going to raise your self-esteem. And then you will feel ready after a while, and it can be weeks, months, however long is that is going to take. Be patient with yourself, and the time will come and you will then be ready to leave. But yes, I would say these are the two main things that I would suggest. Yes.
And then the aftermath, right? So you were married, and, maybe some of the people who are listening are as well, or they're in a long-term relationship. Is there a grieving process that happens afterward, after you've left somebody that you've been with?
Yes. So the main thing that happens, and I have experienced this, I have seen this with 99.9% of my clients, and just because I never give 100%. So, that's
I hear you.
9.9. But they have experienced a loss of identity.
Yes.
Because this very deep manipulation, they tell you things to make you doubt yourself. And this is, especially if you're in a long-term relationship, and also remember that this is somebody that you're in love with. So your guard is down, right? So there's a lot more trust involved and everything. So the effects are deeper, and they, they come, they are a lot bigger. So, those words that they say to you, there's often a lot of insults, the insults disguised as jokes as well.
Yes. Oh, yes.
There's a lot of being a coward there when they cannot, So those things repeated day in, day out during the relationship would have caused you to believe them, because
it's repeated information. It's patterning. It's neural patterning. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. And our brain is exactly like our abs. It learns by repetition. So the more you do it, the more you hear it, the more it's going to remember it. So So it's so because you've learned those things about yourself, obviously you need to understand that these are not yours. Those comments, those words, those notions were put there to keep you in the relationship. Okay, they've created guilt. They've seen because it was convenient for them to have you. Yeah. That image, it's not you. It isn't. It really isn't you. And so that process, that grieving process you were asking about, you're almost grieving that version of you that was created.
Right.
It feels very scary to feel empowered again.
Yes.
It's very scary to feel like you can actually walk with your own legs. You know, it's very different. It can be very alienating, very scary. So definitely there is a little bit of I think grieving is the right word, because you kind of letting go of a part of you that was for a very long time, right. Even if it was created, you know, even if it wasn't your essence, but you lived with that part of you for a very long time.
Yes, it's very much like the inner child work when you're dealing with parental neglect or abuse.
Yeah.
And they're telling you every day, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're stupid, you're ugly. You move out of the house and then all that's in your head is you're stupid, you're ugly, you're stupid, you're ugly. And you think it's your own voice, but it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
Right.
No,
and so it's a real adventure to find out who you actually are.
Yes, absolutely. And that's exactly what I was going to say, that then once you've gained the awareness of the fact that that's a version of you that was created, that is not actually who you are, then the adventure begins. Yeah. Then it's when you're like, okay, so I accept that this is not me. However, now I feel really scared because who am I? So
right.
So you're now experiencing that complete loss of identity, but to the point, I literally have clients that have been telling me, Gloria, I stand in a shop. I do not know what to buy. I do not know what to buy to put on, you know, for clothes, or I do not know what groceries to buy because I don't remember what is the food that I want to eat.
Yeah. How do you approach around that?
Absolutely. That's reconnecting with your authentic self. So what we said at the very beginning. So once you're supported and you have somebody helping you doing this work, then week by week, day by day, you reconnect to that person. And you can do this by peeling off all those layers and letting go of all the things that no longer serve you. And week by week, day by day, you just see reconnecting more and more with yourself, and you're then actually to be able to follow your intuition and be like, oh yes, now I know, now I'm embracing this person that I am, and this is what I want to be. Right. So it can be scary, but also, I mean, aren't you excited when you're in front of a blank canvas? And
I know.
Right?
It's like the same as a writer, a blank page, you know, it's like, it's scary. It's an exciting. I liked what you said too. Like, even when you're in preparation to leave, to try to do something for yourself every day that gives you joy. Yeah. I wonder what you think about this, but if you do start doing that and you carry that practice through the departure and the grieving and the ability to find yourself, you're already contributing to that true self. And that's a new habit that you can create. So I talk about it as a solitude practice. That's what I try to teach with my patients as well. Create a time for yourself that you do something that you love every day. And that's another way, I think, to create, find out who you are and create that being.
Absolutely. And that is why it's so important to do in that preparation phase, because the only thing that's going to give you confidence is yourself.
Right.
Confidence isn't something that can be given to you by somebody else. Confidence is a state. And what makes you feel confident in something that you do with joy. is something that you love, and it's something, I have clients that are like, for me, I just have to put on music, 10 minutes, random dancing, and I'm the most,
that's definitely on my list.
Right? So whatever it is for you. But some people always are a bit lost with this at the beginning because they don't necessarily know. So that's why I always suggest them, what did you like to do as a kid? What is something that you enjoyed? And it's something that I actually did myself when I was coming out of the relationship. And for me, it was reading. I've always been a very, avid reader. And I stopped for years.
Wow.
Years when I was in that relationship. And all of a sudden I felt this need. I was like, I need to do something for myself. I'm just going to start buying myself some books because I haven't done it in a very long time. And I loved it. And the most curious thing, I was buying books. This is the power of the subconscious, but I was buying books that were all about somebody, like the main character was having some sort of like emotional struggle or mental struggle, that they had to push through and find themselves. And they had the ending. So that's I was amazing. Literally learning, seeing myself in those characters. It was so beautiful, as much of a time of loss as it was, and of uncertainty as it was, but at the same time it was a beautiful discovery indeed.
Isn't that amazing how that happens when you open the door and then other doors open for you? It's incredible.
A great one about that, actually, because a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, if I leave, I don't know what to do. Well, please let this story be your inspiration. So I decided that I wanted to leave. I didn't have anywhere to go because I lived with him in London. Don't have any family here in the UK, so didn't know. My friends have small babies, or they lived with other people, so nobody had a spare room or anything.
Wow.
But I knew that I had to live. Right. I knew that I couldn't take it anymore. So I have to go out. And the day after I told them that I was going to move out, I called the old landlord of a place where we used to rent when we first came to London. It was a tiny studio flat in Baker Street, and it was all pink. Everything was pink in that studio flat, like curtains, walls, bathroom, everything was pink in that place. So anyway, such a cute place. Anyway, so I called the landlord and I said, look, Anthony, his name is, and I said, look, I find myself in this situation and I need to leave. I don't have anywhere to go. I was wondering if you have any of the flats available. And he said, Gloria, I've had one flat free for a month and I just literally didn't have the time yet to put it on the market. Do you want it?
Wow.
I said, yes, please. And he told me, look, can you find somewhere to go for like 3 weeks? Because I just need to do some works in there and then it's going to be ready for you. And I said, yes, of course, I can do that. But at least, even if I have to stay here for 3 weeks and then move, I'll do that. Go to work the night after. I speak to my boss and I said, look, I'm in this situation, I'm going to leave, but now I got to wait 3 weeks and stuff. And he goes, well, we have, as I said, I used to work in events. So there were a couple of venues that we had in central London that had rooms for the staff in the higher stories, right? And he told me, well, actually, we happen to have one of the rooms free. Do you want to go there for just a few weeks so that you're there, you're out of the house, and when the flat becomes ready, you go. Synchronicity.
Seriously.
When you do something that is good for you, the universe will always, always, always have your back.
Yes.
Things work out, guys.
Yeah.
Things work out.
Yes.
Take a leap. Even if you don't know what's going to happen, you will be supported. I promise you. Something that's completely unexpected can happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so, if it's your time. Just
that's a beautiful story. And I love that. And I always feel that it's really important for us to understand that we are not separate from the universe. So when we act on our own behalf, when we are our own advocates, and you put into motion what needed to be done for your well-being, that's when your true nature, your true self will act in accordance. Imagine if you hadn't spoken up.
Yeah.
Right. If you hadn't, you know, and yes, it's wonderful that those things were available. But you see, if as soon as you had the courage to say, I'm doing this thing and I'm letting people know, then all of a sudden, you know, things come to you. And that is this beautiful dance that I think we have with the energy of the universe, which is part of who we are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I
couldn't agree. Great story.
I really couldn't agree more. And it's so, you know, I see so many people that don't even ask the question, don't even make the phone call because they're scared. You have nothing left to lose. The phone call, whether you make it or not, if you make the phone call, whatever the answer is going to be, you are not going to be worse off than you are now.
That's right. That's right.
Nothing worse is going to happen than this.
Right.
So make the phone call, reach out, just try, because actually I pulled a beautiful card the other day. I don't do tarots, but because I don't know how to read them. Otherwise I would. But I got myself a deck of oracle cards, and
yeah, those are great.
And I pulled like one or two every morning for myself, just as a little guidance for the day, right? I love that practice. And I pulled one the other day that just said leap. You know, I said the universe wants you to go first. Surrender, just take the leap. And once you take the leap, because it's an inspired action, you will be supported no matter what.
Right.
So it is such a huge force. It
is. And it's so hard to trust that. And then, but we, you know, that's what it means to take that leap, you know? Yeah, that's wonderful. So how can people find you, Gloria?
Yes, so I hang out on Instagram a lot. I am one of those people. My DMs are always open. Please reach out if you have any questions. You know, I don't charge you for a chat. I'm definitely not one of those people. Absolutely, and I have people reaching out to me all the time. So please know that I am very open to have this conversation. If you've listened to this podcast and that raised some questions for you, please reach out. Absolutely. So I am at Gloria Battini on Instagram. Otherwise, you can go on my website, which is theselfmasterycoach.co.uk. And you can find there what I do. And I do have one-to-one clients, but I created this beautiful membership for survivors where, you know, I have survivors actually supporting each other in this. They're all at different stages, you know, some of them are dealing with narcissistic parents, some is ex-husbands or ex-boyfriends or bosses, you know, different stages and different experiences. But you have a space where you have people that actually understand what you're going through.
Beautiful.
And I think that's so important, because when you go to your friends and family and you tell them that you're being manipulated, they'll ask you, how can that happen? I don't understand it. Like, what did you say? How can that be? Right? It's always about something that you did. So I really wanted to create a space like this where you could just have somebody that was there listening, and at the end of the conversation be like, I get you. I actually know exactly what you're going.
Support is so important. Support is so important. So Gloria Battini, thank you so much for being on Self Talk today. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for educating us.
Thank you so much. Honestly, thank you for this opportunity. As you said at the beginning, like, I'm literally a woman on a mission. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to carry on this mission.
Yeah, great to have you. Thank you.